Hello everyone, Mr. Wolf Recaps here. Today I'm going to explain an American psychological thriller film called Fractured. Relax and enjoy.
Ray Monroe drives home from his dad's house with his wife Joy and daughter Perry. It's Thanksgiving Day. The pair discuss their relationship while Perry sits in the back seat listening to music on his headphones. Joanna begins to cry, knowing that their marriage is about to end. As they argue, Perry's headphones stop working, so the couple stop fighting and sing songs with Perry to entertain her. Some time later, Perry has to go to the bathroom. Ray stops at a gas station. Joan takes Perry to the bathroom while Ray goes to buy coffee batteries for Perry's headphones and a Coke for Joan. However, he doesn't have enough money, so he discards the batteries and takes 2 bottles of liquor for himself. Back in the car, he lies to Joan, telling her that the store was out of batteries. Ray is about to start the car when Perry notices that her compact is missing. When they don't find him in the car, Joanna goes to look for him in the bathroom. Ray gets up to check under Perry's seat, but accidentally drops the coffee. Perry is in front of the car. While Ray is distracted, Perry wanders over to a nearby construction site. She sees a balloon and walks up to it. Just then a dog approached her. He starts calling Ray for help. As Perry retreats, she is wedged between the dog and the construction pit. Ray finally notices the dog and asks Perry to stay still and slowly tries to turn the dog towards him. Just as Ray throws a rock at him, Perry gets scared and falls into the pit. Ray runs to save her and also falls into the pit. He falls unconscious. He wakes up seconds later to see Joan running towards them. Perry lies unconscious next to him as Joan checks her for injuries. Ray is still in shock and doesn't say anything. Joanna approaches him, crying hysterically, but he pushes her aside. Ray closes his eyes and when he opens them everything seems normal. Perry opens her eyes and sighs in relief. However, her arm appears to be broken, so Ray gently picks Perry up and carries her to the car. Joanna suggests they call 911, but Ray claims to see a hospital nearby. As they drive to the hospital, Ray almost crashes into another car. Perry is lying in the back seat with Joan in a lot of pain. When the family arrives at the hospital, Joan and Perry sit in the waiting room as Ray checks them in. The hospital is crowded, so the receptionist tells him to wait his turn. As the three wait, Perry whimpers in pain. Ray goes to the receptionist again and asks to be sent earlier than the others. However, she just makes him sign the papers and asks him to wait. He returns to his family in the waiting room, where Joanna apologizes to him for being rude earlier. After a while, the nurse calls Ray's name. The family is taken to a room where the nurse records the necessary information about them. The questions start to become intrusive, which annoys the couple. The nurse then asks them to register Perry as an organ donor, but they refuse. Even after being rebuffed, the nurse pushes the subject, but Ray dismisses her. Another nurse then takes them to the assignment. Perry was placed in a hospital bed and the doctor finally admitted. He confirms that Perry's arm is broken and tells them that she needs a cast. When the doctor finds out that Perry hit her head as well, he advises them to do a CT scan. Nurses cast Perry's arm. He is then placed in a wheelchair and wheeled around for a CT scan. It turns out that only one parent can go in that area at a time, so Ray stays outside. Perry tells him she loves him. Before they part, Ray falls asleep while waiting for them. He wakes up in a few hours and asks the receptionist about his family, but since the shifts have changed, she doesn't know anything. She asks him to wait while she checks the records. A few minutes passed, but the receptionist said nothing. Ray asks her again, a little annoyed. This time, he then checks the morning report, but Perry's name is not on it. Frustrated, Ray asks to see the doctor who examined Perry, but he too has changed shifts. Upset, Ray yells at the receptionist and bangs on the desk, so she immediately calls the CT room. However, the person from the laboratory tells her that only one old lady came to the laboratory that day. Ray is beyond frustrated. He angrily asks her about his family, but the receptionist looks at him like he's crazy. She even blames him for coming to the wrong hospital. Ray insists that's not possible, but she ignores him and starts talking to someone else. Worried about his family, Ray runs into a restricted area of the hospital, only to be stopped by officials there. He informs them of their visit this morning. The doctor checks the daily record but doesn't see any patients named Monroe. Frustrated, Ray looks around to see the nurse who helped them earlier. The nurse recognizes Ray, believing he has proven his point. Ray sighs in relief, but the nurse adds that she doesn't know anything about his daughter or his wife. According to her, Ray came because of a head injury and was alone. Upset, Ray blames the nurse for lying. The doctor assumes he has a contusion from a head injury and offers to help him. However, Ray almost attacks the nurse and has to be restrained. The doctor injects him with sedatives to calm him down. Then the guards lock him in a room. Ray tries to unlock the door, but the drug makes him foggy. So that the sedative doesn't work, he injects himself with an injection he finds in the cabinets. He then tries to unlock the door again but fails. From there, he broke the glass door and escaped from the room. However, before he can escape, people notice him running away. He is chased by security, but Ray somehow manages to escape the hospital and hide in his car. A police car is also outside the hospital. Seizing the opportunity, Ray stops the car and tells the police about Joanna and Perry. The police, suspecting that he is lying, ask for identification. After he shows them his ID, they agree to help him. The receptionist sees Ray enter the hospital again, but this time she can't do anything because of the cops. She calls security before helping them. The guards then let them in. Ray has been taking the police to the doctor before. The doctor admits that there might be an error in the records, and Ray demands that they be taken to the CT lab. The doctor agrees. However, the guards take them to the third floor. Ray clearly remembers that the CT lab was in the basement. In the lab, it's clear that Perry was never there. Ray then demands to call Drive Bertram, who had checked on Perry that morning. The staff obliges. Just then, the receptionist arrives with the papers Ray signed this morning. However, this does not prove the presence of Joanna and Perry. PhD Bertram finally arrives to find that Ray has come alone to the hospital to be treated for a head injury. The doctor asked him to do a CT scan, but he refused, saying that his wife Abby was waiting for him outside. The officers become suspicious of Ray because he tells them his wife's name is Joan, not Abby. Ray then discovers that Abby is his ex-wife who has been dead for years. Helpless, Ray accuses the hospital of kidnapping his family. The security guard suggests they look at the CCTV footage to see if Ray is lying. The group then watches the morning tape, but Perry and Joan aren't in any of them. Ray claims it's because of the camera angle. The cops no longer believe Ray's story. Ray then asks them to go to a gas station to find out the truth. He even found Perry's scarf near the hospital bed. She was in the morning. He claims that proves she was here, but the police need more evidence than that. The doctor suspects that Ray is not in a mental state, so they introduce him to a psychiatrist named Teresa Jacobs. Teresa takes Ray into a room and shows him his administration, which doesn't mention Perry or Joan. Teresa calmly talks to him and inquires about the incidents of that morning. She also asks him about Abby. Ray then reveals that Abby died 8 years ago in a car accident and he couldn't save her because he was drunk. Frustrated, he starts to cry. Teresa now knows for sure that something is wrong. She suggests the police look at the scene of the accident this morning. According to Teresa, Joanne and Perry may still be there. The cops then take Ray and Teresa to a construction site. Again, they call for help to help them in their search. Then they find Perry's compact in the pit. They also see a pool of dried blood in the concrete. The police realize that this cannot be Ray's blood because his injury is not that serious. Missing people covered in blood make the cops realize it's a crime scene. However, Ray in turn blames the cops for planning the deal and blood too. Falsely accuse Ray. He believes the police want to save the hospital for what they did to Joanna and Perry. Teresa, on the other hand, tries to calm Ray down and asks him what happened to Perry. Ray starts babbling. Teresa then asks him if he pushed Perry into the pit. This makes Ray silent. He does not move and looks into the distance. The police then arrest him on suspicion of killing his wife and daughter. As they prepare to handcuff him, Ray shoots. He grabs the officer's gun and points it at Teresa. He then forces them into a gas station and locks them there. Taking Teresa's key card, Ray drives to the hospital in a police car. He hides the gun and goes inside. His plan is to go to the basement, where he believes Joan and Perry are trapped. While there, he comes across a maternity ward. The kids remind him of the day Abby died. He recalls the death that killed both Abby and his unborn child. Somehow he manages to get a doctor's apron and disguises himself as one. He gets into the elevator and prepares to go to the basement, but is joined by security from earlier. He and Ray fight. In the end, Ray strangles the guard to death and takes his keys. Ray is finally inside the basement of the hospital. As he looks around, he finds Perry's toy in a nearby trash can. He is sure his daughter is somewhere nearby. He picks up a gun and looks for her. Then he sees two doctors delivering boxes of human organs somewhere. Ray finally realizes that Joan and Perry were brought here to harvest their organs. This is explained by a nurse who tries to make Perry the organ donor that morning. Read enters the room and is horrified to see several bodies with organs missing. He rushes out of the room looking for Perry and finally finds her in another. The room where the surgeons are operating Joan is in the corner of the room heavily sedated. The doctors have drugged her. Then he holds the surgeons at gunpoint and places them both, Joan and Perry, in a wheelchair, but before he could escape, the doctors restrained him, prepared him to inject him with drugs. But Ray manages to free himself by shooting the device and causing an explosion. He finally runs out of the room with Joan and Perry in a wheelchair. He kills another doctor in the corridor. He takes his family out of the hospital and puts them in the back seat of his car. The family finally drives off. At home, Perry tells them her arm still hurts, so Ray sings her a song to cheer her up better. Just when the camera moves to the back seat and we see that the people sitting there are two random people that Ray kidnapped. Ray gets flashbacks from the morning and we learn that Perry died when she fell into the pit. When Ray pushed Joan, he killed her and Ray's mind couldn't take it. The pain that he was the reason for his family's death. So his mind constructs a new reality, in which his wife and daughter are still. They always live. Ray believes he is saving them, but is revealed to have kidnapped a random patient from surgery. Joan and Perry's dead bodies were in the trunk of his car. Everything time. The film ends as Ray hallucinates Joan telling him to take them home. And that's the heartbreaking end of the movie. I hope you enjoyed the short preview of the film and be sure to watch it. You might like the film. Greetings.
Thanks a lot for watching, guys. If you like this video, please consider subscribing to my channel.